What's up guys, and welcome back to the second installment of the off-grid Helium build guide. Today I'm going to be showing you how to put together your own mounting hardware and install it to the enclosure that we built in the last video. I did just make a video like this in the PoE enclosure guide, but I figured I would remake it for this since the enclosure that we're using here is a lot bigger. So with that in mind, this should be a relatively quick video. Now let's get into the tools that you'll need to complete this build. Now I'll be doing a quick run through of the parts that will be involved. Just as a reminder, again, these parts are linked below. I also went ahead and linked the 2.5 inch hole saw just in case you don't have one of those. I figured it'd be good to link that as well. So the first step in this guide is going to be to attach your mounting brackets. These normally come with the enclosures. I know at least if you buy it from Polycase, it will come with the enclosure. And these will be these little brackets and screws. This is a very easy step. You're just going to take your impact driver and the brackets and the screws that they provide as well, and drill them into the holes that are already in the back of the enclosure. Once you've drilled in all 4 of the mounting brackets, it's time to move on to step 2, which is our DIN rail. So all I'm doing here is taking the mounting hardware that I acquired from my nuts and bolts kit, just some small screws, and putting them into the DIN rail and through the mounting brackets on the back of the enclosure to see where it lines up. And this is going to show me where I have to cut the DIN rail down to size. So I'm taking my marker now that I've found where the mounting hardware will fit into the DIN rail and the mounting brackets, and I've made a little mark to show where I need to make my cut. So after I made my first cut, I simply aligned the cut piece of DIN rail with the remainder of the DIN rail and used that to line up where my next cut would be for the second portion of DIN rail that I would need to complete the 2 mounting brackets that I intend on making. So after making those 2 cuts, I'm left with some very sharp edges on my DIN rail. So all I'm doing here is sanding them down to make it a little nicer. The next step is going to be our U-bolt assembly holes. So we're going to need to make some holes in our DIN rail if the U-bolt's holes don't actually line up. You might find that your U-bolt holes do line up perfectly with the DIN rail. In this case mine didn't. As you can see there, you can't see through the U-bolt assembly holes, so I need to drill some out. So I didn't show it on camera, but all I did was simply put a marker dot on the spots where the U-bolt holes were to line up, and now as you can see here, I'm drilling out that particular spot. So step 4 is going to be to install the assembly. Now that we've prepared all of the parts, we can just simply put everything together. So as you can see here, even though the camera won't focus, I have drilled out my 2 holes, and now you can see that the U-bolt assembly does in fact go through my DIN rail. So all I did here was take a screw and thread it through the DIN rail and the mounting bracket, and used a bolt to secure those in place. And you're going to do that on all 4 corners of the DIN rail. Once I've got my U-bolt assembly attached to the DIN rail, I simply went back in this part and used my impact driver and a crescent wrench to tighten down those bolts on the corners that I installed as well. And that is going to conclude the second episode of the How to Build Your Own Off-Grid Helium Miner series. I mentioned this in the previous hardware assembly video, but I hope you guys do appreciate this guide, as mounting hardware is very expensive, I've found out. So doing it at home for cheap with just your own DIN rail and U-bolt assemblies is really nice. The next video in this series is going to be showing you how to assemble the internal components of the rig. The best way to find out when that video is released is to subscribe to the channel. And on a closing note, please consider leaving a comment down below. I seriously appreciate your guys' feedback. It'll help me make these videos 10 times better. With all of that out of the way, thank you guys for watching and have a good one.